Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel, or hi if you are new here. My name is Talia and I do a variety of videos on my channel including vlogs, motherhood, cooking. I do all sorts of different things, so if that's something you would be interested in, don't forget to subscribe and also hit the notification bell so that you are made aware when I do make a new upload. So today's video is going to be a little bit different to my usual style. So today I thought I would share with you my ADHD journey so far. I think I have lightly touched on it in other videos. I think I might have brought it up, but I've never actually gone into the why and the how, and then also how it affects me day-to-day life and also the strengths of having it. My main aim for doing this video today is so you guys get to know me a little bit better and have some more understanding, or you may think you have ADHD. I hope this video helps you figure it out. So I have got notes because I will go off on a tangent otherwise, so I have wrote some brief points down. I start right at the very beginning from day one. I have always shown some sort of signs that something is a little bit different. That is one of the criteria. You do have to have had symptoms or signs since you were a child. One of the main things with me is I have always struggled with sleep. Even as a baby, my mum said that I did not sleep. I was prescribed medication from the doctors at one point to try and help me sleep. And my mum always says it didn't even make me yawn. It did absolutely nothing to help with the issue. And that has followed me right the way through. Also had trouble with very intense emotions. I would have meltdowns. I couldn't control what I was saying. I would shake. I had that much I wanted to say that I would start to shake. I would get myself in a bit of a state. I think this was probably maybe 4 or 5 years old from what I've been told. I was very easily frustrated. I think that was just because there was so much going on in my head. Things going far too quick for me to be able to cope with. And this just led to frustration, anger and complete meltdowns. I definitely lived in my own little world, especially at school, starting from nursery. I would play by myself. I wasn't interested in anybody else or any sort of group activities. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Nursery was a little bit concerned about this. No matter what they tried, nothing helped. So I just continued down that path. If there was any sort of like circle time or anything, 9 times out of 10, I was doing my own thing. I definitely struggled to make friends. I would say this is still like primary school age. So trying to make friends, it just didn't work. And I don't actually think anyone really wanted to be my friend, if I'm honest. This is my first school I ever went to. And I think it was just because I was seen as the weird kid, the kid that was acting strange or did strange things or wasn't interested in what everybody else was doing. So I definitely had trouble with that right the way through school. And it's still present to today. I am really not good with my anxiety, especially around other people, groups of people. Another thing I would also do is I would hyperfixate. I would become obsessed over certain things. Once I had my mind on something, it was the be all and end all for however long it lasted. One of the only things I can really remember is I had a book and it was called The Encyclopedia of Everything, and it was about this thick. It was child-friendly looking images that were like cartoony sort of pictures, and there was certain pages that stood out to me. That would be things like dinosaurs, how rainbows were made, just different topics that piqued my interest at the time. I must have been about 7. And I would copy the page word for word, and I would also draw the picture that was on it. I would give it to my mum and I was so pleased with myself. I don't know why, I'd only copied a page out of a book. That was my thing. It definitely helped me learn as well. And my mum used to keep it all in a little folder. I'm not sure where that is now, I don't know if she still has it, but that was definitely something that I did, obsessed over certain things, and it became like my be all and end all of interests. I was also a tomboy. I wasn't one of the girls, I was definitely one of the boys. You would always find me either up a tree, playing in a beck, or in mud somewhere. I just wasn't interested in being with dolls or other girly things. I was just interested in being outside, being on my skateboard, rollerblades, scooter, bikes, anything that was like thrill-seeking is what I like to do. Thrill-seeking, daredevil, you know, all these type of stuff are ways that I would probably have been described as a kid. I really did have no fear, and you know, I would climb higher into a tree than I probably should have. I would hang upside down, I would let go. I could have really hurt myself. As I got older, towards the end of primary and then also through secondary school, things definitely got harder. So school became more difficult. I was struggling to keep on top of things. I was struggling with homework, getting, notebooks, planners, pens, pencils, which you'd then get in trouble for. I definitely felt as though I was falling behind. And I think this is down to, I knew at this point that something was different about me. I wasn't learning the same way as others. Certain things I was just as good as everybody else, but there was things that I found difficult and other people didn't. I learned a different way to other people. It wasn't as simple as the teacher taught something and everybody else seemed to be able to pick it up and just get on with it. I couldn't do that for a lot of things, and I either needed it explaining over and over again, which I tended not to do, and I look back now and I think I should have, but I didn't want to look stupid. I didn't want the teacher to think I was stupid. I didn't want the class to think I was stupid. I would rather not understand it and just pretend that everything was okay when it wasn't. I was still struggling a lot with anxiety, and it started getting worse at this point, and also depression started to creep in. I would spend a lot of my time really, really low. And I think that was probably just down to feeling just really overwhelmed, feeling out of place, like I didn't belong anywhere, feeling like I was stupid because I wasn't learning the same as everybody else. And the thing that really didn't help when it came to learning was, if I didn't understand something and it wasn't going in, it's like a wall would come up, and once that had come up, there was nothing anyone could do, even me. I was no longer interested. I was just frustrated, and then I would just have to stop what I was doing. So then we hit my college years, which I was still having my mood swings. It was definitely easier in the terms of college is more relaxed. It wasn't so intense, if that makes sense. The lessons weren't so packed, and that isn't every single one of them. I ended up taking engineering, so a course that was intense, but I think you'll know what I mean. It's different from school. You were treated differently. Whilst there, I actually was diagnosed with dyslexia and dyscalculia, and this made so much sense to me. It made sense as to why I struggled so much with reading and numbers and letters, maths, because it's all to do with each other. Nobody had picked that up all the way through my school years. So I think if this was picked up along with the ADHD, my school life would have been a lot easier. Tools could have been put in place to help me with things that I was struggling with. I think that definitely would have helped me out quite a lot. I still found it hard to learn in certain lessons. If I don't find interest in something, I really do struggle to concentrate and take that information in. And then also I had the trouble of, I still did learn differently to other people. I couldn't just see something and then pick it up and I'm done. I would need things to go over and over and over repeated, but it just wasn't like that. I also did have to take my GCSEs 3 times in college. In school, I'd failed my maths, so I had to take it another 3 times in college, and I did finally pass. I got my grade C, which I was over the moon about. It was the one thing that I really wanted to have. Into my early adult life, this is after college. Now, it wasn't long before I ended up pregnant with Ayla. I was pregnant with her when I was 18, and I left college, I think I was 17. Can't quite remember. Once college was over, I had my qualifications. I had in my head what I wanted to do. I wanted to join the RAF and be an aeronautical engineer, so I wanted to work on planes. I ended up meeting my daughter's dad. We travelled a lot, went on holidays and things, and then it wasn't long before I ended up pregnant with Ayla. Once I became pregnant with Ayla, I think things definitely took a drastic turn. More so once I had actually had her. Not only was I now having to deal with my own problems and look after myself, which was already an issue at the time, I now had a baby, a house, and then I was also dealing with this toxic relationship that I was in. My anxiety got really, really bad at this point. I was struggling completely with any sort of interaction that was outside of my family. This is phone calls, it was meetings on the phone, this would even making a doctor's appointment, I would have panic attacks over, and that is still something I suffer with now. It's one thing that has followed me right the way through, and nothing has ever changed. So I tried to start 2 businesses making dog leads, dog collars with paracord. I did sell a few, but they just didn't seem to be going as quickly as I'd like it, and these are all little fixations I had, so there was months worth of planning that went into each one of these businesses. So much money spent. buying the products to actually do these things, just for it not to work. I then attempted resin. I was making resin dog tags, coasters. I had plans for other things. That just never took off. I was going to etch using this special etching cream. I just had so many ideas. I was even going to make like hand stamped dog tags. I had all the metal tools to stamp all the different pictures in and the names. It just never went anywhere. Some of the things I never even started. I just bought the stuff for it, and I was so overwhelmed with the options that I could do that I just physically couldn't do anything. And then I had a few jobs. When I left, I became pregnant with Ayla. The next one I did, I think I was still doing YouTube at the time, and I had to leave. I was really at my wit's end at this point. It was taking a massive toll on me mentally, struggling to keep on top of the house. And something had to give, and it was my job. I had to stop. I couldn't cope anymore. I was tired all the time. I was in so much pain. I just couldn't cope anymore. It was just far too much for me to be able to deal with at that time. My struggles have been an adulthood. My main one is keeping on top of the house. I really do struggle with keeping on top of housework. I just find it so overwhelming, and I often don't see the mess until it's so obvious that I feel so stressed out in my own home. Like, I can't go from one room to another without there being a mess, whether that be a mess that I just haven't cleared up, whether it's a mess that Ayla has made, whether it's a mess that the dog has made. It doesn't matter. It's all mess. And as I say, I don't see it a lot of the time till I end up with this massive pile of like laundry that needs doing, or a massive pile of clean clothes that needs folding, ironing and putting away. And I'm literally walking into the kitchen, I see this huge pile, and it's just like, no, I can't, not today. I can't do that today. There will be a point where something like, it's like a switch goes in my brain. It's like, right, we can do this today. Every other day there's been a wall, you physically can't get to this pile, just unable to do it. And then other days it's like, I can blast through a room, or I can get through all of these clothes. And sometimes I can't even finish it. I will start doing something like that with all the motivation and the goodwill intended, and then it just goes. And once it goes, that motivation, I have to stop what I'm doing, because I end up just sat there looking at all these clothes or looking at the dishes, whatever it may be. And I just sit there staring at them, and I can sit there for ages and just not get anywhere. And eventually you just walk away and do something else. How my ADHD has affected me as a parent. Now, this is a hard one. With me having ADHD, it does make things a lot harder. And motherhood is already a difficult thing to do, to keep on top of all the things that need doing. I'm overwhelmed, she can be overwhelmed. She can't just go and do an activity and just sit and do it. She gets bored very quickly, moves on to the next thing, and then that creates mess. I often have to step away from situations and go sit by myself, just to give myself a breather. My mind is just so overloaded that I cannot take the 50 million questions that she's giving me, or asking where something is. Can I have this? Can I have that? Can you do this? Can you do that? It's all day long doing this, and then keeping on top of schoolwork, school activities, non-uniform days. If I didn't have the WhatsApp school group chat thing on my phone, I don't know where I would be. The amount of times that has saved me when I have forgotten completely about something, and it pings up on the phone to say, oh, don't forget it's this tomorrow, or don't forget they're going here, don't forget to pay for the school trip. And I think, the amount of things I would have missed and completely forgot if it wasn't for this chat is just crazy. I am always misplacing my things. I can put it down and it's gone. I'm sure there is a ghost in the house that keeps moving all of my things, or at least that's how it feels. I know where I've put something and it's gone. And then I'm also really bad for walking into a room and just forgetting completely why I am there, which is quite frustrating. Or I'll go to Google something, and the second I pull Google up, it is gone. So it's very frustrating to constantly lose things, forget what you're doing, especially when you're right in the middle of it. So how my diagnosis came about was I'd had enough. I was sick of just nothing working. I tried to implement, I just couldn't stick to them, and it was just getting really difficult. Things that I should have been able to do just because everyone else could do it, I just wasn't able to do it. Just, things like lazy were being thrown about. I was called lazy, I don't do anything, and yet all I felt like I was doing was running about non-stop, always on my feet, doing so much, but then nothing actually got done, or it was getting done, and as quick as I'd done it, it was a mess again. So I would tidy the kitchen up, I'd make dinner, and then there was all the pots on the side. I'd start making something else, doing something, more mess on the side, get the washing out the washing machine, there's more stuff now in the kitchen, and that's how quickly it just seemed to appear after I'd spent so long actually doing something about it. I went to my GP. I was already on high anxiety medication at this point. It was for anxiety and depression. I explained to the mental health nurse what was wrong, and he said, what did I think it was? And I was pretty convinced I had bipolar, just with these massive mood swings of either one or the other. Just being really overwhelmed, frustrated, short fuse, hyperfixating on things and being really like okay, or really frustrated or really low. I was never on like a mellow ground of just feeling like everything's okay, just milling through life. I was one extreme or the other. And he said to me he was pretty sure it was ADHD. To hear that was a little bit of a shock, because I guess like a lot of people see ADHD as something naughty little boys have. They're bouncing off the walls, they're not listening, they're fighting, they're getting in trouble at school. And that's just not the case, especially for girls. We have a completely different way of experiencing ADHD and showing it. So we're more likely to be called chatty and not paying attention, doesn't apply ourselves, all that sort of thing. So it isn't really picked up a lot in girls and in women. And there's a lot of women who make it into the 40s, 50s, if not later. And that is when they get their diagnosis. And it has taken them nearly all of their life to actually be able to go, this is what it is. This is what is causing all of this trouble in my life. So once he told me that he was pretty sure I had ADHD, he did also drop another bombshell in there and said, I do have some autistic tendencies. Now, that would be a completely different diagnosis. That would be an autism diagnosis, which I haven't gone through. But when he said that, it did make sense. I can definitely see the more I've looked into it, I definitely show signs of both. And that makes things so much harder. The two are opposites. One side your brain's wanting one thing and one can't cope with it, and it clashes a lot. I guess I'll just see how things pan out. He brought me back in another day. We did like this assessment paper thing. He asked me some questions, he filled it in, and then I also had like a questionnaire and I had to fill that in. At the end of it, I was given a score and I was right at the top end of the score of having ADHD. And at this point he said he's going to put me on the waiting list, and it was going to be anywhere from 4 to 6 years. Which was a letdown, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's the right word, letdown. Yeah, I've been waiting all this time, struggling. I've finally found the courage to go and speak to somebody about it, and now you're told you're going to have to wait forever to get this diagnosis. But then he said there was something called the right to choose. Now, this is basically where you are referred on the NHS to a private clinic, so you don't have to pay because it is an NHS referral, and the waiting times are so short compared to waiting on the normal NHS. So that is the route I went down. Finally got that done. I'd say about 6 months later, I started hearing back from Psychiatry UK, which is who I had been referred to. And then came a final message to say that I could book my online appointment, which I was so excited to do. Went onto the website, I filled it in, and I got this page of all the different psychiatrists I could choose from. They have like ratings next to them and people's reviews. I can't remember who I chose, but he was fantastic. I couldn't fault him in the slightest. He was really nice to speak to. And the way the meeting was conducted was on like a Zoom call type of thing. He then asked me all the different questions, and I then told him about struggles and how long things have gone on for. There was forms that had to be filled in as well by people who know you. I got my mum to fill things in as she knew me best. She's known me from day one up until now. She has a lot of insight on how things have affected me all throughout my life. At the very end of this assessment, he said to me that I do have ADHD, and the type he said that most fitted me was the inattentive type, because there is a few different types of ADHD depending on your symptoms, and obviously it is a spectrum. It affects everybody slightly differently, and some people are more severe than others. It is really just on a case-by-case basis and how it affects you, but there is a lot of things that we share universally that we all have trouble with. Once that had happened, he wrote a report and all of his notes that he took, his opinion on the situation, that I had been diagnosed with it, and what the steps are now to come. So I'm not on any medication for my ADHD. I'm on something now called titration, which is a waiting list for medications. He said, is that something I would like to do? And I'm all for medication. If it is going to make your life easier and it is going to help you and your mental health, 100% something I want to try. You have to send out regular blood pressure things, so I got sent one of these in the post. Whenever I get a thing that comes up, I have to send my weight, height, and then the results of whatever this says. I usually take it 3 times to get an average, because normally the first time I do it, my blood pressure's pretty high, and I think that's just from the moving about. So I take it 3 times, and then usually it's at a normal level. Yeah, that is my life up until this point, the things that I struggle with. There is some good points to having it. When I'm really interested in something, I can just get on with it. I can hyper focus on things, get them done, which is a good thing in itself. I can pick things out sometimes other people can't. My brain works real quick on certain things, and then other things I'm really slow at. It really is hit and miss as to I am good at and what I aren't. My hopes from the medication, from what I have seen people say, is it just quiets your brain and you're able to get on with tasks. So rather than looking at something and going and doing something else, or looking at something and staring at it, you think, I need to take the bin out, and you just go do it. And I think that would be amazing to be able to just think, I need to do this, and then go and do it. If you have any questions, guys, please leave them in the comments below. If you have a similar experience, you've had your ADHD diagnosis, have you had medication? Did you find it to work? Or if you didn't find it to work, let me know down below. Hopefully it has made you feel more validated in yourself, that maybe this is something you were struggling with. I'm going to leave this video here now, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.